public opinions and the results of votes often turn out to be radically different. And some of the reasons are given by the fate of referenda. So, for example, take where I live, Massachusetts. For years, every year there was a referendum on progressive income tax for the state. Now that would benefit, overwhelming benefit for the general population. You take a look at the public opinion polls. At the beginning, very strong support for it. And then it slowly declines. By election day, it's a minority. Why did it decline? Well, huge propaganda campaigns warning people that if you do this, all the business is going to flee out of Massachusetts, you won't have a job, your children will starve, and so on. Yeah, that's just what the guys who own the information system want you to believe. So you should look at public opinion polls for the same reason that they are taken. Well, why do we have so many public opinion polls in the United States? They're mostly business initiated. The propaganda institutions, like the PR industry, they want to keep their finger on the public pulse. They got to know how to design the propaganda. So they want to know what people are thinking. So in fact, if you want to find out, you can find out too. And you can find out how these opinions are changed. Sometimes they're very resilient, strikingly resilient. So say, take the Vietnam War. There was huge propaganda justifying the war. I mean, among articulate people, there was virtually no opposition to it, contrary to what you're told. There was pragmatic opposition, like it's not working or something like that. But, there was that kind of opposition in Hitler's general staff after Stalingrad. Principled opposition was almost non-existent. This has been studied, incidentally, literally almost non-existent. On the other hand, if you look at public opinion polls, they're quite different. So public opinion studies were taken regularly by the Gallup poll. One of the questions every year, regular questions in the Gallup polls from around 1970 to the early 90s, last one I saw, was, what do you think of the war in Vietnam? Given an open set of choices, like 10 options, where you usually get low numbers. But it was a steady 70%, roughly, plus or minus a little, that chose fundamentally wrong and immoral, not a mistake. There's nobody in educated, articulate opinion who ever said that. I mean, everybody who answered the question that way was making it up for themselves. Well, that's a striking indication of the divergence between public opinion and policy. Actually, another one is the Multilateral Agreement on Investments, which is just mentioned. As soon as it became public, the whole thing collapsed because for exactly the reason that the negotiator said. It looks like an end to an era when we can make deals behind closed doors and have them rubber stamped by Parliament. There's rabbles getting involved in things. Those are some of the major reasons for the kind of thing that Orwell was talking about, for thought-controlled and free societies. In fact, the more the less forced as people win more freedom, as people have, meaning that the power to coerce by violence has declined, the importance of propaganda has increased. And that's well understood. I mean, you can, you read it in manuals of the public relations industry and the productions of academic intellectuals, the founders of modern political science, public intellectuals, and so on. You have to control the public mind because we can't control people in any other way. Well, under those conditions, public opinion polls are important and interesting, but voting is something different because people are giving highly structured choices, structured by an information system which is dedicated to maintaining the power of those who own and run it. And that power is enormous. I mean, the corporate control of the media is like a small part of it. Corporate control of the economy and social life is a far stronger part. The virtual Senate that I mentioned is another part. I mean, unless we think about those institutions, concern about things like proportional representation or, voting by computer and so on, maybe of some interest, but it's like 10th order effects.